Well, one club is working on this striker partnership of the future. Another one is trying to keep the striker partnership of the future, and that's Bayer Leverkusen. Simon Rolfes, with quite a statement saying that Leverkusen will keep both Boniface and Schick going into the new season. I guess they got all the money that they need from selling Florian Wirtz and Frimpong. That's a lot of money that has come in. And on top of keeping Boniface and Schick, they've also been heavily linked to Mahne's Accliucci, the young forward from Monaco. Very interesting profile. I know he plays technically in midfield, but he's can play all sorts of different roles. A player, this is a kicker report that they really want. Creative type who's supposed to help Malik Tillman. By the way, that transfer is now also gone through because Bayern Munich's clause to buy him back has now expired. So wait for that one. It's probably going to be announced pretty soon. But yeah, this is a big story. Like, Simon Rolfes is essentially saying he's going to roll it back with Boniface and Schick. And, all of a sudden you're having a Leverkusen side there that with Tillman now in the fold, maybe Accliucci coming in. Do you have your two number strikers? It's looking like a pretty formidable side again, Stefan.
Yeah, we talked about this when Alonso left the club and said, Leverkusen will really kind of, I think, enjoy reverting back to a lot of the things that Alonso didn't let them do. We talked about the transfers and how that changed, but also tactically speaking as well. I think it was really telling what Rolf has said in that interview. Here, I'll read out exactly what he said. Unfortunately, Xabi Alonso didn't try playing them together up front very often. Bonnie also played in a two-man, Boniface that is, also played in a two-man attack in Belgium. He then even went on to make a specific reference to one game. He said, in Stuttgart, for example, Boniface came on and then he and Patrick turned the game around together. So not only is...
I remember.
Yeah, well, exactly. So it's not as if he's saying, someone's asked like, oh, hey, are you guys going to sell Patrick Schick? And he's being coy and he's like, well, no, we really rate him and we don't want to sell our best players. And someone says, well, you've got Boniface, and he says flippantly, oh, well, we could always play two guys up front. No, he specifically got out of his way to say Xabi Alonso didn't play these guys up front. We will play these guys up front this season, and I think it makes perfect sense. He's absolutely right. Mahne, you should probably speak to this yourself. You're in the stadium, but when Schick and Boniface played together, it did completely turn the game. How many times, Manu, last season did we review Leverkusen games saying, why won't Alonso just play some bloody strikers? That's all we were asking for. It'd be Nathan Tella up front. It would be Frimpong up front, Florian Wirtz, whoever. He was always so reluctant to play strikers. And I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really refreshing if that's what Ten Hag has obviously came in and said, well, I think we can obviously play these guys up front. And, I think it makes perfect sense. Boniface, I think the thing that's really interesting with Boniface, and it's something, I hope this doesn't come across as a lazy stereotype as well, but a lazy comparison, but he does remind me of Romelu Lukaku in the sense that he has the frame and the build of a big number 9, and people are very quick to assume, right, that guy's a penalty box kind of target man who obviously loves to tussle with defenders. But he's not. He's a guy who likes to come deep. He likes to take the ball. He likes to dribble with it. He loves to kind of drift out left with it. And play outside the box. And Patrick Schick is obviously a player who is excellent in the box. I've wrote countless newsletters praising him for gegenpressing. And, I think last season I went so far as to say, well, not last season, season before, now saying, he was probably one of the best goal scorers in the Bundesliga. One of the best strikers in the top 5 leagues when he's on form. I've said it before and I'm happy to put it, but when I think Patrick Schick's on his game, he really reminds me of Robert Lewandowski in his prime. That's the kind of player that I think he is. So if Ten Hag, Manu, can find a way to put Boniface and Schick in the same team, it somewhat solves the problem with Florian Wirtz because Boniface can kind of maybe take up that left-hand side role. Leverkusen obviously have a number of players who can play through the middle. You mentioned Tillman, who obviously can play through the middle as well, but they've got Ibrahim and Matza as well, who's a central midfielder, kind of number 10. And then Schick can kind of plays the more kind of traditional kind of penalty box striker. And it's a way of getting the best out of your two best players, Manu, and that's exactly what Leverkusen want to do, because for much of this year, it's been this discussion about, well, is Schick going to go? Is Boniface going to go? There was obviously a big push to sell Boniface in January because Xabi Alonso had no interest in finding a way to put them both in his team. But they've also got a new head coach. He's like, yeah, I've got no problem with that. And he's obviously going to find a way to do it. So, yeah, it's an interesting kind of example, Manu, of how much Leverkusen have quickly changed since Alonso left the club.
Yeah, no, I actually just reread the match report. I did forget impressive from that game, which I think I had to rewrite 3 or 4 times because Leverkusen were down 3-1 and won the game 4-3, thanks to a 94-minute winner by Patrick Schick. Game turned around in the last 30 minutes because Victor Boniface came on. I think we remember also the debates that we're having, talking about Alonso's refusal to not play with the 2 strikers, but play no strikers at all in so many games, right? I think it was the 0-0 draw against Bayern Munich that also comes to mind, where they were really dominant, but he just refuses to bring in strikers. I think the title race would have probably looked very different last year if Alonso hadn't been so reluctant to play strikers up front. He did the same in the Europa League final. Remember that too? A game that went really very much sideways for Leverkusen. So it could very well be Eric Ten Hag is Dutch. If they can play with 11 strikers, they would. they love attacking football, right? Controlled attacking football. I have like Louis van Gaal's voice in the back of my head lecturing me right here as I say these words. But it is true that Eric Ten Hag will probably have a very different vision of how this team is going to play. And will have a different vision, have to have a different vision, because you can't just put Florian Wirtz on the field and hope for the best anymore. The tactics will have to shape. I think there will be a little bit more structure, a bit more possession. I think, Ten Hag, Dutch guy, I suspect there will be also more of an impetus towards a back 4 and maybe a 3 in midfield and 3 in the attack. Or 4-2-2-2. Those are just, the indications that you see from him in the past. And I think there's going to be a lot of the football culture is going to remain that Alonso brought in, like the way that they play the ball. But I think tactically the shape is going to look a little bit different. And that could very well mean that you see a lot more games with 2 strikers up front. And so if Wolf is now saying, look, we want to play both of them, then yeah, I could see that. And that would explain why they are targeting players like Accliucci or Tillman, right? The attacking midfielders that can sort of play behind a front 2.